Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Mike Hayden and I wanted to visit with you a little bit because we've been talking about, thinking about, and playing with a little bit of stuff called structured data. That'd be schema and JSON. What would you call structured data, Mike?
Structured data is basically a way for making what we know intuitively for what the business is about, or articles, something like that, and it's putting it in a particular structure, hence the name, putting it in a particular structure so that Google or machines can read it with some certainty. Like, for example, humor doesn't come across very well in text. How does a computer know whether something's sarcasm or humor or whatever? But when you say, okay, like structured data is basically going, this is a joke, enter joke. So doing that for a business, so this is the business name, that's the name. So instead of the machine having to guess at what the data about the business is, you tell it exactly what the information is, what you're connected to, where your opening hours, that sort of thing. So that's structured data in a nutshell.
So you're saying the simpler we can make it for Google to understand what a page is about, the odds of it ranking might increase?
It should be quite significant, the difference. And it also helps, you may have seen in Google listings, for example, if you have a review marked up, letting Google know, okay, this is a review, oftentimes you'll get, say, the stars in your Google listing, or you might have seen breadcrumbs. So instead of it just listing the entire URL, it will say, this is the category and this is the page, or something like that.
Yeah, in my experience, when you have that simple little thing for breadcrumbs and give them more clickable links, it seems like it increases your click-through rate.
Yeah, often will do that. And you also got opportunities to say, okay, this is an image of my business. So there might be 10 pictures on the page. Are you going to let Google guess which one is your actual shop front? Maybe they'll get it right, maybe they won't.
Now, it seems like it's been interesting over, I don't know, maybe the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, people talking about schema, people talking about JSON, and I'm going to say disconnect and the fear, maybe the fear of making a mistake that I've seen with different marketers and developers around internet marketing, SEO, and stuff like that. So you've been doing this for a long time. You've been able to master this. Have you seen kind of the fear of people when we start talking about JSON, stuff like that, of putting it on their websites, and maybe the inability for a lot of people to actually do it and do it properly?
Absolutely. And it's a warranted fear. Like Google regularly on its documentation says, don't get this wrong, otherwise we're gonna just take you out of the search engines. Like, they're just gonna completely destroy your business if you get it wrong. So like if you know what you're doing, it makes the web page experience a lot better. But yeah, Google is very open that, it's such a powerful tool that Google wants to make sure that you don't abuse the system, by, I don't know, posting fake reviews, or like, they have warnings all over the place saying, don't abuse this, don't make mistakes with this. So, you can understand why people are hesitant to extend it or play with it. But at the same time, that means that Google's basically acknowledging that this is pretty powerful stuff. So it can only help, really.
So in our conversations and working on ways to make our lives easier, I believe we kind of have come upon some plugin, if you will, a WordPress plugin to make it, is it almost very difficult, if not impossible, to make mistakes with this tool to actually have schema and structured data through JSON on web pages and websites?
So this is, I think, the third or fourth version of a tool that I've used to create structured data. I used to have a form that you'd fill in and it would spit out the data, which you'd then copy in and take over to your website. There's other tools around that do that now, but I've built this for internal use because, you know, I don't want to be, I don't want to have to be building JSON continuously, and you know, maybe you forget a forget a colon or a double quote, or you use a single or double or whatever. So, you know, I've built those several times. I think I started in 2013 building structured data, so it's been a while. But this one particular, I wanted to make sure, go through all Google's documentation to make sure that things like the required and the highly recommended, all those fields are entered properly. I've tried to make it as foolproof as possible, but you know, at the end of the day, if a business doesn't enter their address correctly, I mean, there's no way to check that, you know, you actually are at that address, for example.
I like it because it's one more things I can take off of my plate now and have an assistant take care of. And anytime I can have something like that, I like it very, very much.
The best part about it is that you don't have to touch code. So you don't have to worry at all about any aspect of the code, but it'll still output the correct schema markup to your website. Another thing that I often have to run into is how do you insert that data into your website? So, you know, oftentimes you'll have to use another plugin, or, you know, you'll have to edit a child theme or something like that, which, you know, understandably a lot of people aren't so comfortable doing. Whereas this, you literally just fill out the information. I've made it pretty obvious what's required, and then you just go through the extra stuff that you want. If you want to extend the schema, because one of the other things with having so much code is people just kind of do the bare minimum. And, you know, if you do bare minimum, you will get some results. You know, but a lot of the bare minimum stuff, Google kind of already knows. So the real power of schema is all the extending stuff, you know, adding a link to your map, or, you know, to your service catalog, or that sort of thing. And so I've built in all this extra stuff so that you can easily extend the schema, again, without having to touch code. And then, you know, if you're a power user and you know exactly what you're doing and want to extend it even further beyond what's in the plugin, then I've provided hooks for all that as well. So pretty much every base that I can think of and that people who've tested the plugin can think of, will kind of tried to make sure that those are covered, so that it's, you know, this is specifically for a local business rather than for, I don't know, like an e-commerce or something like that. But so if you've got a local business website of any size, then this will cover you.
Awesome. Well, what do you say we kind of take a look and take it for a test drive?
Sure, can do that. Figure out this screen sharing thing. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can.
A bit bigger.
Perfect. You know, for people with older eyes like me, that makes it easier.
And a smaller screen like the laptop you've been working on for the last week.
Yes, my eyes are tired.
All right, so this is the plugin in its most basic form. So we have the essential ones, as I was talking about, all the required fields. So if you fill out all these fields here, then you're not going to get an error from the rich results tool. The only thing you could possibly get an error from is if this particular image here isn't publicly crawlable, but otherwise everything is pretty straightforward. So people would go through, they would fill out all this information here, and then if they want to extend the schema, we've got things like opening hours. We've got the logo. You can add the map, business coordinates. the area served, which you could either do an administrative area, so like New York or whatever, that can be city, country, state. Kind of tried to be as clear with the descriptions as possible, but as we get more feedback, I may tweak those descriptions to make it more obvious. So we've got the area served, which just puts a pinpoint and then says how far it is. Got the description, same as, which you would put either your social accounts in there or citations, they can go in there. And then we've also got some article schema if people want to use that. And it can either be the user or the organization. Then the last one for the information to add is the review. So this would be the review that shows up on the homepage. You can do it on every page if you so desire. There's some debate around that, which is why I enabled that. I've got it showing to yes on one of the sites that I work on, one of my client sites, and hasn't had an error, hasn't had any issues for 4 years. So I don't know how much that one is a problem, but Google usually says it's best not to put a review everywhere and all that, so put that option there and the review. So then you can fill out the information on any of these tabs and hit update schema, so you're not going to lose the information. So then finally we have the code that's outputted. So imagine having to write all this code by hand and make sure that you have all the correct curly braces and there's some square brackets. Make sure you have the correct way of doing the square brackets and no missing commas, or you couldn't have a comma here, for example, otherwise that'll throw up an error. So making sure that everything is all correct and all done properly. And this last one here, great, super. That one is the power thing that I'm testing. That's brought in by the theme. So have all that information there. And you can just take this, pop it into the rich snippets tool. Just because I should have gotten rid of that before. Just going to get rid of that line. Nothing like a live demo, hey?
Yeah.
So then we go testing code, and Google's going to go and check on everything. And then down here, we have the schema and everything that's been inputted. All this information here appears inside the schema. So you can have a look and show your client and all that. Then we also have the correct review snippet. So the first one is the aggregate rating, and then the second one is the actual rating itself. So that schema will then appear on the home page. So if you go to the home, so yeah.
Hey, before you get back there, can we take a look real quick there? Let's go back to the essentials. And let's take a look at business types, because I know business types can be confusing when there's like hundreds and hundreds to choose from. So how did you just set that up?
So what we've done here, instead of outputting all, I don't even remember that there's a lot. It's 70 to 100 thereabouts. Instead of outputting all of them in one particular drop down and having to scroll through forever to try and find the right one, we have the main categories of local business. So say, for example, we've already got home and construction, we go employment agency. And of course, there's only one for employment agency, automotive business. So then this one over here will change depending on what the header one is. So the main category and then the subcategory. So for a cleaning company, they would be home and construction business, and then you would just leave this top one here. But say you had a locksmith, you would change that there, and so that it makes it easy to get to the closest category business.
Looks fairly simple to be able to find your primary category and then secondary secondary category, if you don't have them, you just use basic local schema, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Awesome.
So if your business doesn't fit any of these, literally just stick with local business.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's go ahead and go on to where you were going to on the second tab.
So this is just super demo one. So I'll just look at the code just to show you, ignore all this. This is just pulled in from Astra. Part that we're interested in, sorry.
Oh,
Part
you're
we're
good.
interested in is here. So this part here, the application LD plus JSON. So this has automatically outputted all the code that we showed before. It's automatically outputted it to the website. Put this in here.
Mhm.
And run the test, and you'll see it's exactly the same.
So basically, did you pull the code from inside the page versus from what the tool told us it did, just to make sure there are no errors?
Exactly. Yep. So this is the code that's from the actual page itself. And if you were running it on a live site as opposed to its local development site, then you could just take the URL, stick it into the rich results tool, and you get the exact same thing there.
Okay, so that's the schema for the home page. What if we have pages in there, like let's say we're an attorney and the attorney does personal injury, workers' compensation, different things like that? Is there any way to tell these internal pages or tell Google what these internal pages are about?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go with this one here. Actually, no, you said personal injury attorney. What was one of their services?
Workers' compensation attorney.
So let's say that this is one of the pages is what I want. Apologies, live demo. So let's say that they've got a workers' compensation page. So they'll have their home page, and then under that they'll have their services. So workers' compensation will be one of their services. And so we just come down here on the page for workers' compensation.
So this is something that's going to show up underneath your text and stuff like that, kind of like a Yoast or an all-in SEO or something like that.
Yep. So it'll be at the bottom of all that, so it won't interrupt your usual flow. So then workers' compensation, then you might go to Wikipedia. So all I'm doing is grabbing the Wikipedia URL for this. Sorry.
Next one to the right.
Yeah.
There we go.
You would do a short description. So then we update that and we view this page in the source code. You'll see there's
We get you the money for the hurts.
So I'm just going to grab that whole schema and it'll be more obvious what's happening. So we have the local business, and then under the schema, all the stuff that we had before, and then we have has offer catalog. This is cleaning services, which we put in before, but then here's the offer. Oh, great. No bugs on my computer. So then it brings in this is the one that we just created. So we've got the workers' compensation, the URL of the website, same as, so to let Google know, okay, well, we are talking about this type of workers' compensation, and then the description that we put in, and then we have the makes offer. So there's some there's some discussion about, and some courses that I've seen on schema, they say you should start with service schema, but if you can see from here, we actually start with the local business schema. Reason for that, and yes, you could easily argue that you should start with the service schema and then add the local business in as an owner or the provider of the service. But when I built it that way, Google didn't recognize that it even existed on the page. It's like, yeah, no, there's no schema here. I'm like, I mean, I've done it exactly correctly for the service schema. So then I had to look through Google's documents, and it doesn't actually recognize service schema as the top line. It doesn't recognize that as a thing, really. So the way that we make it work so that we can provide the schema for this specific service is to do it as the local business, and then under that we have the makes offer, which brings in the service, and then it's also added to the offer catalog, which if we jump over back to the local schema, that offer catalog will appear on all the pages. So this workers' compensation, so this is going to be on all the pages. So then you'll essentially be linking between all your pages to your service pages through schema as well. So providing more structure to your website.
So then this is going to help us help Google identify each service that we're offering on each page to, again, just kind of cut through some of the noise. And again, I would think if we have a page that's about workers' compensation attorney, and the site itself has decent metrics, it should help that page be more visible for workers' compensation in the area that this page is about.
Yep. So on this page, as you'll see, you'll also have your postal address, you have your coordinates. So it's, it's bringing in all that locality-based information as well as the service. And by doing a same as for here, and it doesn't have to be Wikipedia, it just needs to be a trusted source. So, you could have your local, most of the time you're going to be doing Wikipedia for that, but it might be, say, Better Business Bureau or something like that. Something that defines your that particular service.
So with the latitude and longitude, that should help with what Google calls proximity search, kind of like our maps. Now we're basically making our pages on our websites proximity through latitude and longitude, just like Google Maps.
Exactly.
So what if we had this workers' compensation attorney that we're talking about that maybe covers a few cities? How would we talk about that so that we could have workers' compensation show up in Huntington Beach, California, Newport Beach, California, Irvine, California, different areas that people may cover or provide services to?
So there's a couple of ways that you might do that. You might have a workers' compensation Newport Beach. You might have a page that's dedicated for workers' compensation in Newport Beach, or another one that's dedicated for Orange County, or something like that. So you can set it up so you can do the multi-location schema. So in here, let's say we had one that was workers' compensation and Newport Beach. So then you would put Newport Beach in here. You put your latitude, longitude. This will automatically bring in the telephone, street address, everything from your main one. So if you don't actually have a different address for each of those locations, that's automatically filled. But if, say, for example, a franchise situation, or you actually have separate business addresses in each of the different areas, then you would bring those in there. And then so you would have your multi-location here. The other way is you may literally just have the location and not have the schema. So you would turn that one off and leave that one on. And so so we'll pull in the multi-location as a department. Now, nothing like a live demonstration to double check that I didn't make a mistake. Yes. Let's double check this against Google's rich results. Okay, that's fun.
It's always fun when we're eating up some bandwidth by streaming. So in working with structured data and schema and JSON for the past 12 or 9 or 11 years or whatever you said, since 2013, have you seen any other tools that make it as simple as this for people to basically do data entry, and from the data entry, produce code that's in the proper format for schema and JSON?
But they usually requires fairly good understanding of how the data is meant to be output. Like you need to know exactly what you're putting in, so it kind of becomes a garbage in, garbage out situation. So I haven't come across anything that means that you don't have to touch the code and do all this, and things like the multi-location or the service schema. I haven't seen that done before. So here we go. So
Newport
I don't know
Beach.
why Google wasn't working, but then we have this Newport Beach. So this is all the information about the location that we talked about. And it comes on, and the reason why it's coming up as schema rather than the business name is because on this website, schema is the business name.
Sure.
So it comes down here, we've got all the stuff that we've seen before, makes offer, and then under here we have department, and it brings in all the information about that specific location. So we have both the makes offer and the department. If you were to, let's go back, if you were to turn off the enable service schema, then it wouldn't have the makes offer, and then changes if you turned off the multi-location.
So check is on, no check off. That's
Correct.
pretty complicated, Mike.
Invisible, done. And then obviously you update that, delete it. So the last thing on this particular one, so we spoke before about the review and having the review just on the home page. Even if you have review everywhere on this particular page with this particular schema, you can put in your own, basically a single review that you would probably have on the page. That's what we're supposed to do on this specific page, and then it would replace whatever review there is with this one. So it would still bring in the aggregate rating and all that, because the aggregate rating applies to the business, but this would be the way that you would have a different review on every page. So you can still follow Google's guidelines about not having the same review everywhere or review spamming or whatever. You can follow those guidelines and also get your stars and all that.
And perhaps if you have a review about workers' compensation or one about workers' compensation in Newport Beach, maybe actually take a few moments to actually put the most appropriate and relevant,
Yep.
Review on each page.
Yep, exactly.
Huh, that's kind of crazy.
I thought so.
Yeah. Awesome, Michael. Okay. Awesome.
There's one more thing, but wait, there's more. So we saw on, sorry, let me go back to that real quick. On local schema, I saw down here we have the optional use article schema. So a lot of local businesses, particularly now, they'll do blog posts and things like that for content marketing to improve the SEO of the business, or many reasons. So for this, we have implemented article schema. So this is just a standard post. There's nothing on here that you'll see different. We may add customization later, just having a chat to some people. But for now, this is how the article schema is set up. So go back to the same spot. I'll start this CSS. And then in here, do the rich snippets, rich results test. And hopefully Google won't freak out this time. There we go. Yeah. So the reason why this has this warning here is because the image, it doesn't like the image that I've got because it's on a local server, but this error wouldn't appear on a live site. So, so we have the article, we have the author using person markup, and then under works for, we bring in the business, and then under further, under publisher, we bring in the business again. Now, to keep the code light, we actually only bring the business in once and then refer to the other one by ID. If you've taken any schema courses, you would have come across referencing by ID. So that's how that's done. But we have both works for, and so Google's recognizing all the structured data just for this particular article. So it's bringing in, for example, the offer catalog. So all these articles are linking through the structured data to the individual service pages. Same as all the business information, address, etc., both as the publisher of the article and also as the author who works for the business. Now, the other option we had, so that's with the article schema as user. You can have it as organization, and it will just adjust this accordingly. So obviously, obviously, if it's business, then the business isn't working for the business. The author will just be the business. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show for that. Any questions?
So it seems like if you have all those links to all those pages, service pages and stuff like that, it should help with juice to flow through the website from page to page and stuff like that, and make the aggregate of the entire strength of the website and all the pages a little stronger.
Yeah, you would assume so. Haven't done any testing on that, whether Google only pays attention to links specifically, as in the ahref links or links through structured data, but this is literally telling Google, okay, these are my important service pages, and exactly all the information about them, and crisscrossing as you go. So as Google gets even better at understanding and processing the structured data, then that's something that helps the machines understand exactly what is most important about your website. And for local businesses, the most important pages are the home page and then the service pages.
Exactly. So when someone downloads the plugin, it's going to and activate it. They're going to access it underneath the settings tab that's in every WordPress site.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So if they activate it, let's go to the plugins page. So they can either jump straight to the settings or to the license. So they can put in their license so they can get updates and all that kind of stuff. And then jump straight over to the settings, which is this page. Yeah, we'll jump to the Essentials tab.
Okay, awesome. Well, if someone wants to make their life easier and have this tool to take care of all their structured data, where would they go to purchase it, Mike?
So they would go to weballey.digital, don't have that.
See, I was testing you.
You sure were. And hopefully I'm not giving away any trade secrets with the right, and come over to local schema. And then this is the sales page as it currently stands. It'll probably look different once they get to it. But they can either go for a developer license, which is $297 per year currently, and that gives unlimited websites. The other option is $20 for a single site per year. And that, like, the main idea behind that is, you know, an agency would get a developer license, and then say they had a client that either wanted to leave or they wanted to have separate billing for them, and they could just kind of spit out a single license for that particular client.
All right. And I think we won't put it on this video, but we'll put it in the comments there that there is a little coupon to get anyone that's watching this, and we're sharing this with people that we know and have had relationships with in the past, so that they can maybe enjoy this at a discounted price.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, Mike. Well, I think we've definitely been able to go from the basics of structured data, show people the tool that we've created here for them, and show them how to purchase it. Is there anything else that we should cover or you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, awesome. Well, we hope this has been helpful to everybody. I know I love this tool, and I think you would like it as well. And it definitely makes it easier for us to be schema and JSON experts and not lose our flipping mind with brackets and curly things and commas and colons and all those other crazy things that I know I have gone crazy over in the past. And most of the people that I know that have used this have had issues with the past. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions, you know how to reach Mike or myself. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.